Good evening, everybody, to the first annual Red Sox are about to win the World Series party, and also the Raleigh SEO Meetup. Come on in, you're just in time. Tonight we are very lucky to have two real pioneers in the SEO field who are doing great work. The first is Joe Hall, who lives down in South Carolina, not too far over the line. Joe works at Internet Marketing Ninjas and does a lot of very interesting work. I was listening to him not too long ago at Search Exchange, where he was talking about some great pattern stuff that he's working on, trying to figure out what the hell Google is doing. John Doherty, who is up in New York but soon to get married and move to San Francisco, is working at Hot Pads. I think that's the name, but John can tell you more in a second. Which is the rental arm of Zillow. There you go. Thank you. I appreciate. I need the help. But John worked for a long time at Distilled as well, heading up a lot of their SEO efforts there. And tonight is really your night to ask questions about what's going to happen in 2014. So I wanted to kick off with an easy question for these guys because they are both excellent crystal ball readers. We got to get them on the big screen as well, so you can flip that whenever you want. The question I wanted to start them off on, there's plenty of room right up front. Don't hang in the back there. The question I wanted to start them off with is, there's been a lot of change over the last 2 years from Google, their algorithm, even how they weigh different parts of the algorithm. And what does that mean to us? What is the things that we may still be doing from the olden days that we really need to move away from? So, as soon as we get these, that's going to be the... Is that up there? Coming? Waiting? Hold on. There we go. And that's a great question to start with, and hopefully it will get some of your questions flowing. When you have a question, just step up. I'm going to leave the mic right here. I'm going to turn the camera so those guys can see you. Take your time asking the question, and we're just going to go one question after the other. So let's start with Joe. Joe, what is the stuff that these guys might be doing now that really isn't helping them anymore and may even be hurting them moving into 2014?
I think that one thing that we've been seeing a lot on an agency level with our clients is excessive link building. And I'm not saying that link building, you need to forget about link building because links are still very much a part of Google's ranking algorithm. However, it seems that a lot of people are still building links that were appropriate years ago aren't so much appropriate anymore. And the types of links I'm talking about are basically links that have what's called exact match anchor text. So in other words, you'll get links that will have the exact word that you want to rank for within the anchor text. And it used to be that was a really great way to drive a page up to the top of the listing. But now it's actually become much more a threat because if you add too much exact match anchor text, you can get flagged with the algorithm filter. And that's really, a big misconception I think right now with link building is that you still need to, focus on those keywords within the links. It's really more important now just to get high quality links, no matter what type of anchor text you get. So I think that, as you move into 2014 and you're developing new link building strategies for your domain, you need to focus less on the anchor text, focus less on the amount of links that you're getting, and focus much, much more on quality. Because those are the types of links that are going to last a lot longer and they're going to isolate you from the rest.
Yeah, and I'm right there with Joe. I think Joe has some phenomenal wisdom to share right there. I was going to comment first on links. Before I joined Hot Pads, which I've been on the job a total of 2 weeks and 1 day at this point, so I'm still brand new there. But I was at Distilled, as Bill said right before. So I've worked with a lot of large sites, some of the biggest like content publishers on the internet. I've worked within some tech sites and some other content sites. And so apart from the links thing that Joe covered, very, very well, which has especially been a big issue with the Penguin algorithm, which was an algorithm, if you don't know, that Google released. They've released it a couple of times. I believe it started sometime last year. I believe it was February 2012 that it began. No, April 2012. February 2011 was Panda, which is content. Since then, links have obviously become toxic. Too many exact match anchor text, excuse me, has become toxic in a lot of verticals. But what I've seen is, so content written just for keywords, content written just to rank for keywords, the Mahalos and the eHows and the WikiHows of the world, the Squidoos, those have become those sites have started to rank a lot less because it was the kind of content that was not very useful for people. It's content that was written just for the search engines. You don't really know how to sharpen. You don't need to know how to sharpen a pencil necessarily. And there are a ton of articles out there about sharpening a pencil, and those are stuff full of affiliate links, so people are making money off of it. And Google basically said this is not adding value to the internet. And now with Hummingbird coming in, which is a kind of a reconfiguration of Google's algorithm, they're trying to answer those sorts of questions themselves. So I guess in short, my answer is yes, links. I absolutely agree with Joe there, and also content that's written just for search engines, not written for users, that has no social signals going on around it. Those are the things I think a lot of people have been doing in the past that now we need to move away from moving forward and actually move towards doing useful stuff for users that's going to build those links naturally, and is also going to build the overall authority of your website in order to rank for more terms, more competitive terms, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think to bridge what John was saying, just real quick, Google has talked a lot publicly, Matt Cutts especially, about, and they've used the term over optimization a lot. And so if you think of anything that you're doing and you might be over optimizing it, whether that be content or links, they've gotten very sensitive to that. So if you're doing things that are outside the realm of common sense, developing content that doesn't have a common sense purpose, if you're developing links that don't have a common sense purpose and that they're not bringing you traffic and they're not really high quality, and that's likely going to get you filtered within the engines.
Let me jump in to where you guys left off, because a question we get a lot is, I run a small business. I was just talking to a woman today who runs a yoga studio in Houston, and she said, I'm having trouble ranking. I'm writing on my blog, I've done some local citation stuff, and I'm still not getting a lot of traction. So the question that always comes back from really everybody except huge content creators is, how do I get those links in a organic, not spammy way, other than hire a team of writers and push out infographics every quarter and that sort of stuff? When you guys talk to medium or even small clients, what's the advice you're giving them on how to become more relevant in their niche and possibly get some of those high-quality links that we just talked about?
I'll go ahead and grab that one first. I've worked with some smaller clients doing freelance and such, and the thing that I always tell them, and the thing that I honestly love about small businesses, is that you can engage in the conversation directly with who is around you, right? So if you're a yoga teacher, there are going to be yoga classes, there's going to be yoga meetups, there's going to be that sort of thing going on. You can really be involved in that conversation in your local area, and really start being seen as the expert, right? So then the advantage is you're not just going to be ranking for more, right? You can do your SEO best practices. You can have your local page. You can get your citations, that sort of thing. And some of those, it's going to be enough, to start ranking in the local pack, in the 3, 5, or 7 listings in the search results when we search for, say, yoga studio, Raleigh, North Carolina. But beyond that, engaging in that conversation, being where people are discussing. There are, if you search for yoga studio Raleigh, North Carolina, maybe Yelp is going to come up. There are going to be a bunch of different places that come up. Be there and be involved there, and not linking back to your site in a spammy way, but engaging in that conversation, having the link on your profile, referring people there, engaging with people online, if they're on Twitter, if they're on Facebook, wherever they are. That is how you start building your authority, and then the links come from there.
I agree, and also I'd like to take it a step further and say that as online marketers, we oftentimes ignore traditional marketing. We oftentimes ignore actual in-person interaction, and it's really easy for us to do that because, as you can see, we're actually not in person right now. We typically are behind a computer screen, but each one of you in that room right now, you're surrounded by other people that could be linking to you, and so I think that if you are using in-person networking at all in your marketing efforts or in your business development efforts, you're only one step away from link building. And all you have to do is then bridge that in-person networking opportunities into a link building opportunity, like promoting your website. So I'm assuming that most folks in the audience tonight has a business card. You guys probably have your website address on the business card somewhere. Those cards should be circulating tonight, and you guys should be really out there promoting your domain and your website to basically anyone in your community. Because that's kind of what I think a lot of people miss, is that you can be an expert in your field and you can be a authority figure in your community. You can be super, super active, but until someone knows you have a website, or until someone knows that you are looking to promote your website, then it's just concerned. So, absolutely be completely active in your communities, both online and off, and always be promoting the domain.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think Joe touches on a very important point there about the the in-person part, where you're interacting with people and you're telling them about what you're doing. Even just passive, I call them passive leverage factors, like having a sweatshirt, with your company on it, or having a T-shirt or something like that. That starts getting that brand awareness going on there. There was actually a phenomenal post, and then talking about social media, there was a phenomenal post on Medium.com. I don't know how many of you read Medium. It's a new blogging platform started by some of the Twitter guys. I write on there. I think it's awesome. But there was a phenomenal post on there about connecting with people and just talking about how you connect with people, on social media. So, you're not going out to try to make business connections, right? You're going out to try to make friends. This is why I always tell people, make friends on the internet, right? There are a lot of jerks out there. Make friends. And if you're the nice guy, people are going to notice that, and people are going to, want to interact with you, in what's going on. So I guess my advice there is, just dovetailing on what Joe is saying is, go and make friends, and I'm not saying build it and they will come. Go and make friends and be purposeful about it, absolutely. But connecting with the right people is definitely a way. It's another one of the ways to start winning. All these things really go in together, right? With SEO, it's not just content, it's not just technical, it's not just links. It's a whole package deal. So, you can leverage the offline for the online with links, as Joe is saying. But that's definitely the way I talk about going about it.
That's what you got from Joe? Because what I heard Joe say is this whole room should be a giant link wheel.
Right.
I think you guys should all turn to the person next to you and ask him for a link. Do it right now.
That's exactly.
I did that as they came in.
Good.
John, Joe, thank you for spending some time with us tonight. I work for a real estate company, and real estate agents are independent contractors. I know. And then also that real estate agents are independent contractors, and as such, they have true small businesses, like business of one usually. So I'm going to dovetail to what Phil asked you about the small business owner. When I'm talking to my agents about what to do in 2014, and we've already done tons of training sessions on anything from Facebook to LinkedIn to Google Plus to YouTube, and using video and using content and all those wonderful pieces and parts, really the bottom line for them is going to be, how am I as a small business real estate agent going to get myself up there in ranks beyond just using all my time to create that content? So how would you answer that question?
So I'm going to take this one real quick. Start off
Go
with.
for it.
Actually, I got started in SEO in the real estate industry. I started at a large residential real estate firm at the beach. But anyways, so to be honest with you, I think that realtors start to leverage other people's authority online. And are you a broker, by the way? I can't.
You hear me? Okay. I am not a broker. I'm actually a digital media marketing director for the company.
Okay, so this is what I would do. Let's say that you have, so I guess you have clients that are real estate agencies or whatnot.
I actually have real estate agents that
Okay.
I teach how to use
Okay.
digital media correctly, basically.
What I would say, the smartest thing to do, and like you said, agents are free agents. They can go anywhere, and they can operate in any type of a broker. What I would do is pick a broker that has their act together online, and then leverage that broker's authority. The brokers that I used to work for, I was an in-house internet marketing person, and so we did really well because that was my only job. I actually ran the website. I kept everything going. All of our agents had independent pages on the site, so they could do almost anything they wanted to. And as a result, each agent ranked really well, especially for their terms, for their names. Now, of course, a lot of agents, are competitive, and they don't want to share so much with even your broker sometimes. So there are other sites out there that are really great. ActiveRain.com is a phenomenal real estate site. It has a lot of domain authority, and you can go and sign up for a page on there, and you can rank really well, especially for your name. If you want to get even more competitive and rank for, something like a local, like a geospecific term, like for example, Raleigh SEO, Raleigh real estate, you're going to need to do a lot more than kind of leveraging another broker. And you're going to have to actually build a completely independent business and spend the money to do that. Because those types of terms are very, very competitive. But again, if you're just trying to write your term for your name, you can do that basically off of other people's authority. And this might sound crazy, but sites like Facebook actually rank really well. So you can leverage Facebook's domain authority to rank your name as well. So like I said, you don't necessarily need an independent website or domain. In fact, that might be a little more difficult to rank with. But if you can leverage another entity's authority to rank, especially for your name or the name of your business, that absolutely can work. If you want to get even more competitive, though, like I said, with a much broader term like Raleigh real estate, you're definitely going to need to kind of invest some money and build out a brand and kind of be a part of your community. John, do you have anything for that?
Yeah, totally. I think that's brilliant. I was actually going to say a very similar thing about leveraging the authority for links and for the basically crowding up the search results as you're talking about, Joe. Ranking all these different sites for your name. You're not going to rank 10 different pages on your site for your name, but you can rank your Facebook page and your Twitter page and your website and all these different ones. I actually want to go with the authority thing from a different perspective. I want to go at it from a content perspective. So one great thing, so it's not necessarily about creating more content, right? I've heard a lot of real estate agents say, I've created a lot of content, it's not getting me anywhere. I'm like, well, then stop creating that content. We have to create different content. So not just talking about, directly real estate in your area. Like, sure, it's fine to post about awesome houses and that sort of thing. Zillow does a phenomenal job about, and obviously Zillow is one of the more authoritative real estate websites out there. It definitely has that authority. They write about celebrity houses that are on Zillow and that sort of thing. And that sort of content does very well for them. But then also thinking about what are the people that are interested in what you have to offer, what else are they thinking about, right? So how can you be there to start getting that mind share? In real estate, it could be things like design. In internet marketing, also it could be design. It can be, like at Distilled, Distilled basically built the business in a lot of ways. Once Distilled partnered with Moz, formerly SEO Moz, now Moz, that was when Distilled really started taking off. Right, Distilled has the Monday slot on the Moz blog. So every Monday, someone from within Distilled writes on the Moz blog. And so that really started getting Distilled's name out there in the industry. Right, it's not Moz's software, but they were an SEO software focused company. Now they're an online marketing, inbound marketing software company, which has helped Distilled to build their name. So Distilled doesn't rank for a lot of stuff, but they have plenty of leads. And at the end of the day, I think that's the point that I want to get across is I see so many people get so stuck in on, well, I want to rank. I need better ranks. I need better rankings. But really, there are so many other channels that can drive that, right? Producing content to gather email addresses, to have them, within a drip email campaign, social media, content on other websites. There are so many other places that you can leverage as well while you're building links, naturally, authoritatively back to your website. And then you'll be ranking, long term, you'll be ranking for those more competitive terms as you build the authority of your website. But there are a lot of other channels as well, to invest in. So I think that's what I would say to a lot of them.
Okay, thank you very much, guys.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to ask another question then. I was just listening to a guy the other day talk about PageRank. When you guys do this all day long and talk to clients, tell me where PageRank is as a priority when you're doing your job.
Do you want me to take that first?
Go for it, Joe.
Okay, so Phil, just out of curiosity, Phil, was that you who was talking about PageRank?
It could have been.
Okay, all right. Yeah, we don't use PageRank, and I can say that without a shadow of a doubt. I'm a senior analyst at Internet Marketing Ninjas. I've been there for I've been there for about a year, and over the course of consulting some 200 client accounts, the term PageRank has never crossed my lips. We don't use it at all as a metric, as a KPI, so to speak. Google has even come out and said that there's two different types of PageRank. There's what we see in the toolbar, and then there's what we see or what we don't see, kind of behind the scenes. I think what's more important about PageRank is to understand the model of thought that the PageRank is based on. The PageRank is based on this concept that websites can pass value and that links can pass authority. So if you think about the web in that context, it's a very powerful kind of metaphor to understand how an algorithm will rank pages. But if you focus on PageRank as being a metric or KPI that you're interested in tracking, you're wasting your time. A lot of pages will rank really high with low page rank, and a lot of pages will rank really low with high page rank. There's really no rhyme or reason to it anymore. The original algorithm was developed in the 2000 when Google first launched, and since then we've seen a handful of different patents to come out that completely rework the whole page rank system. So, again, we really focus on other metrics. We look at organic traffic that comes in, organic search traffic. We look at the number of links. Unfortunately, that's still kind of where we look at. We do look at rankings, but we look at rankings in a very macro level. We look at rankings usually in the range of 20 to 30 rankings at a time to see if there's changes or shifts. There's just a lot of things, and to be quite honest with you, each business owner is going to be different, and each business owner is going to require different KPIs. The bottom line, though, if you own your own business, that the bottom line should be revenue, and what's bringing in the most money, and what's converting the best. So if you need to focus on anything, focus on the dollar sign.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was actually going to say page what, because I haven't used PageRank in forever. I mean, so as Joe said, it was something that was developed back in 2000. Matt Cutts just came out last week, I guess it was at PubCon, and said that actually what they use to update what we can see, which is known as toolbar PageRank, which you can have up in the the top of your browser. He basically said that the pipes on that are broken internally, and they currently don't have any resources dedicated to fixing it. So what we're seeing is at best 3 months old, probably a lot older, and it's also different from what they see internally. So I mean, to be honest, I have a Chrome plugin Chrome extension on my browser that it flashes up toolbar PageRank, and I use that to get just a quick snapshot when I go to a site, to get a quick snapshot of how authoritative that site might be, right? Because if I see a 0, I'm like, okay, like it might not be worth my time, but if it's relevant to to my client or whatever, then I'm probably going to spend some more time on it, and go look at who's linking to them, go look at link building that way. Do they have an audience that I would like to get in front of? That sort of thing. The metrics that I use instead, honestly, are the Moz metrics. I use some of Majestics as well, and for links, I use the metrics from link research tools. But Moz's metrics of domain authority, page authority, those are the ones that I use to really look at the quality of a site. Of course, that doesn't tell you about how well they've been ranking or that sort of thing. You can use a tool like Search Metrics for that, for their their search exposure, to get a snapshot of it. Once again, it's not an in-depth dive, but it's a snapshot. So that's what I use it for mostly, and then also to say, all right, so why are we being outranked? Who's outranking us? Why are they outranking us? It's a starting point. Site metrics are a starting point for me, but I haven't used PageRank in forever. I've always steered conversations away, from PageRank and link juice and that sort of thing. I talk about link equity, and link power, which comes off of site authority.
I'm a novice, and I looked some at plugins like Yalf plugins, and I would like Joe and John to comment about what they think about some of the plugins like the Yalf SEO. Yeah.
Phil, I didn't really catch that.
He's using the Yoast plugin for his
Okay.
WordPress install, and he wants to know what you guys think about those, or if there's others that you think are better.
I love Yoast. I use it on all of my WordPress websites. You definitely have to know how to set it up. Actually, Juice himself has some really useful instructions on his own website, yoast.com. But Yoast is what I recommend, for WordPress websites across the internet, as far as SEO plugins are concerned. I use some other ones like SEO Slugs, which makes your URL shorter. It eliminates like the ands and the ifs and that sort of thing. I've actually heard rumors, I think, that's being baked into Yoast SEO, which is great. But I use Yoast for all of my WordPress websites.
Yeah, I love Yoast. And also, what's great about Yoast is I know him relatively personally, He's a great developer, and he's one of these developers that uses open source, but is incredibly committed to the development of his plugins. So, yeah, I definitely use those, and I think that anyone that's serious about WordPress SEO can absolutely use those.
Totally agree.
Thought that was on. Can you hear me okay? I had thought that WordPress was a helpful tool, but then I got spammed a lot with respect to people trying to advertise, I guess, on my blog. So I did one, and then I just gave up because I didn't know how to control spamming. So what do you do for that, and is it good, bad, or indifferent as far as helping you kind of get, up the ranks?
Are you using Ask It?
I'm a layman, even though I've written a 2-year business plan on the software that I'd like to develop, honest to God, just conceptual. I don't know.
Okay, so WordPress, the developers of WordPress have a plugin that they've developed. I think it comes with WordPress, and you tie it into their API, using API. And what it does is it monitors all of the incoming comments, and if a comment has already been flagged as spam on their system, then it won't allow the comment to be even accepted on the site. And it's relatively reliable because WordPress now maintains a 20% hold over most websites online. You're talking about billions of websites that are currently cooperating together to manage spam problems. So what I would do is I would ask whoever you work with to set the site to install that plugin and make sure that the API key is installed, and that should fix most, if not all, of your spam problems. There's other tools out there though. If you're having a real serious problem that goes beyond the typical spam issue, there are other tools out there that you can look into that can protect the site as well, or you can completely turn off comments altogether, and so that you won't receive any spam at all on WordPress. So that's an option as well. That actually is the easiest option because you don't have to really set anything up. You just go in to the settings panel, and I think there's a tab called Discussion. You click the Discussion tab, and then underneath that, you turn off the comments or whatever.
You can also go kind of halfway, so you can you can have comments enabled, and then you can also set a specific amount of time after the post is published. Then comments will be disabled. So I've had sites where I've done like 2 weeks, so comments can come in because really comments happen the same day that you publish it, maybe a few the next day, and then maybe 1 or 2 the day after that, and then really probably not more comments after that, or at least not useful comments that you're going to be engaging in discussion on. So what you can do is you can have that turn off. One thing that would be cool to do that I actually just thought of this, I hadn't thought of this before, is when the comments turn off, putting something that says comments are now closed. If you have specific questions, please email me and put your email address. So then like legit people can email you, but you're also not having to go back in and take care of the spam. Or you can just have sign in, right? Don't accept anonymous comments. Make people sign in with Facebook, Twitter, something like that.
Thank you. I just have one more question real quick, which is that if you use links in your blog, is that recommended? Like other links to, like, say, product, or is there like legal issues involved in that? If you do that, if you're speaking to that topic.
Yeah, I'd say link and link freely. Like, I mean, don't be going and linking to bad neighborhoods, like bad websites. But I think we don't really need to go into what bad websites are. But if you're referencing something from another website, link to it. If it's a product that you like, link to it. I think that's actually a signal to Google that this is a legit website. In the past, in 2006, 7, 8, people talked about hoarding PageRank, right? And of course, I just use PageRank there, which shows you how outdated of a tactic it was, where they wouldn't link out at all. But I don't I don't recommend not linking out at all. links make friends. I've linked to a lot of people and then emailed them and said, hey, I referenced you here. They gave it a tweet, or they linked back, and it's worked out great.
Yeah, we actually recommend with our clients that they do do high quality content within other content because it helps the user, and then it also sends a positive signal to Google that you're kind of sharing other good stuff.
Thank you.
I was just going to add one thing to what you guys were talking about for comment spam. Akismet's fine for getting rid of it, but a few years ago, Matt Cutts mentioned in something he was talking about cookies for comments, which is another plugin, and it basically stopped all of the robot spam that I was getting. It's super lightweight, and all it does is tries to give the robot a cookie, which they can't take because they're robots, and then it won't let them comment. So one more great way to get rid of that comment.
That's true. That's good. Phil, that's good. The only problem is that doesn't stop human spammers. Because some people actually do have whole internalized processes where they have like contracted labor, which you can spam through a browser. So I like it because it ties into everybody. But the cookie plugin that Hutch recommends does stop the vast majority of automated spam. Yeah.
I think of that robot spam as just harassment spam.
Yes, you're right.
We had a question from the chat room, which was, when you've got a brand new site, just put it up today, what do you start doing to try to get a little bit of traction right off the bat?
Start writing content and ask your friends to share it.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think you want to share it on social media. Try to get other folks to share it on social media. It's hard to do something in a day's time. But again, just share the site as much as possible.
Yeah, and at the beginning there, it's okay to write content for for stuff that your site is about that is also going to be relevant to your audience, right? Like I have a side business called hiregun.co that basically it's to generate leads for freelancers, and so I started writing blog posts on there, around like how to structure an SEO engagement, that sort of thing. That it drives traffic to the site, right? And I wrote it because I saw that there was search volume for it, and I wrote it, and it started ranking, it started generating traffic for me as well. So you can be, so I'm not writing just for search engines there, right? I'm writing for search engines because I know there's search volume, and I'm writing for users because I know the users are gonna respond to it, and I'm making it a good resource that people are gonna want to talk about, people are gonna want to link to, that sort of thing. And then I did ping some friends and ask them, hey, could you share this? There's absolutely no shame in doing that.
Good to be with you guys. Joe, I'm more used to seeing you running into your bars, but nice to see you on the big screen. John, always good to see you. You guys may be familiar, last week at PubCon, in Matt Cutts' keynote address that you addressed earlier, that he spoke about social signals and wanted to make clear that those didn't have really a short-term value in search results, by which I took to mean like you shouldn't expect get some likes, get some retweets, get some plus ones, and that will directly drive up your search rankings. But he spoke about them having long-term value. He wasn't real specific other than that. Just said that they should be in that for the long haul. What's your interpretation on that, and what do you think the value of social signals are?
I think there's a lot of value in them. And I mean, you could read into what he said in two ways, and you can read into it in trying to decode kind of like how the algorithm works. And if you're going to read into it that way, I think what he might have been saying was that they just haven't figured out exactly how the social signals will tie into the algorithm. But then if you read into it, I guess in a more abstract way, I think what he might have been saying was that on a long-term basis, if you're popular on social media, you're building a strong brand. Um, and the stronger your brand is, the more authority signals are going to put. And so I think that that's probably what he was getting at. But again, there's evidence that points to the fact that they are still developing kind of their social ranking algorithm. And so that may change. It's hard to really say, but I think what's important is not to use social metrics as a barometer of success, and rather to use the platform and the networks as a medium to promote what you're doing. And that's what's really important. It's not so much to use the plus ones and the retweets, all that stuff, as kind of a model for success, but rather just to use the platform to gain more targeted traffic and more customers.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, it seems like Google's basically building their own person map of the web using Google Plus, right? So there's a lot of talk, and Mark, I know that you do a lot of research around authorship and do a lot of writing about authorship. You and AJ are the two guys I go to read stuff about that I really trust. So I do think that long term, like Joe said, Google is trying to figure out how are these, social signals going to look. Dwayne Forrester from Bing did a great post. It's a couple years old now, back in 2011, about social signals. They can actually tell that if you're gaming social signals. It's actually a really cool post. I would recommend looking it up. I don't have the link offhand, but I recommend looking it up. But short term, just like Joe said, social signals will drive traffic. Google Plus, posting a link on there has actually been shown to get content indexed almost immediately. Like within a few seconds, basically like a direct signal to Google, like, hey, here's a new link. Go check it out, go index it, go cache it, see what else is good there for you. So Google Plus is really useful, honestly for that alone. If that was the only value to it, I would say to use it. But like Joe said, building out that audience online is definitely the way to win with social signals long term. And Google will eventually figure it out, and as they do, we'll adapt and we'll move on with it. I personally don't really agree with Matt saying that social signals don't have any effect, short term. Google can definitely see, they can index most tweets. Facebook's kind of a walled garden for them. They can index most tweets. They can look at, or they can index things like Topsy, right? That have the list of tweets. So Google can find this stuff, and they can see if it's being, +1 and reshared on Google Plus and it's being tweeted. They can tell that it's popular, right? And they have this thing in their in the algorithm called QDF. Query deserves freshness. So pages that are published, if you go and you look at almost any search result these days, you search for some of the more competitive ones, it's not going to have this, but most like long tail stuff, how to sharpen a pencil, is going to have content that was published recently, right? So Google right now has that factor turned up pretty high. And I have to believe, and I've seen that social signals have an effect in that. Long term, they're not gonna help in that way of getting a lot going on, straight away. But I do think that they have an effect there, at least to give it like an initial bump. Joe, you might disagree.
Yeah, another thing to think about also is that Google is a corporation, and they do have a PR objective, and they do have a business, goal, and so their best interest is to kind of not to get too conspiracy theory here, but their best interest is not to give away all their cards. And so if the community starts to see a high correlation between social signals and rankings, and Google wants to continue using social signals, the first thing they're going to do is tell us that there's no correlation, and that correlation is long term. Because otherwise, SEOs are going to go out there and they're going to just manipulate the rankings, and they're going to overuse it to a point where it's no longer a valid signal. So they do have that PR angle as well going. That's something to always consider every time a search engineer says something.
Hello. Hi, Joe and John. I'm Shelley. My website is claudetteandshelley.com. My business partners are right over there, Claudette. And we have a question, now that Google Keyword Tools has been taken away from us. What do you recommend?
Grep words. It's a tool that's been built out by the guys at Verante. Yeah, Mark's clapping. I bet Russ is there in the room somewhere. I actually just started using it last Friday, and I've been using it using the SEO Gadget. SEO Gadget is a company an agency in the UK that's phenomenal, run by Richard Baxter and Laura Lippe. That they've built something out for Excel that you can actually use the GrepWords API to pull in search volume. There's also an instant tool that you can do instant keyword research. I think it's grepwords.com/instant.php, and it's phenomenal. So I actually use a combination of the AdWords tool and GrepWords to do keyword research now. GrepWords has pretty much completely replaced the keyword tool for me.
So I actually, I don't mean to be like self-promotional, but I actually wrote a post on our company blog called 12 replacements for the Google Keyword Tool. And you can find that at internetmarketingninjas.com/blog. And then like 5 categories. And there's a post on there where I list 12 things, or 12 tools that you can use as replacements. There's a lot of replacements out there though, and I think that ultimately, what you need to do is identify the metrics that we're using from that tool previously, and just look for other tools that provide those same metrics. One tool that I use probably almost every day is SEMrush. It has a lot of data in there, and it has a free version, but it also has a premium account as well. It's definitely worth taking a look at.
Yeah, and if you're looking for keyword ideas, using tools like one of them that I like to use the most is Ubersuggest. Ubersuggest.org is a phenomenal tool. Basically, you type in a word and it gives you, it takes that word and runs through the A's and the B's and the C's and gives you all the permutations there. Soovle, S-O-O-V-L-E, is another one that does it, which is amazing. It gives you, Amazon and Google and Bing and Yahoo and all of those. So Soovle is amazing. And then there was one other one that I was thinking about. Will Reynolds from Seer Interactive talks about this all the time. That he goes to Google and starts typing in things related to to his business. So search engine optimization space, see what comes up, right? What are keywords there that you can do that? And actually, Soovle scrapes that for you. So you can just go in and start typing it in Soovle, and it's kind of like, it's really cool. It's like a circle around the word, and it just like gives you lists from all these different data sources of potential keywords that you can, then you can check out in the keyword tool or GrepWords or somewhere like that to get, potential search volume and start creating content around those. But Joe's absolutely right, and think about like, what is it that you're looking for, and then what are the tools out there that can get it, for you. So there are a lot of suggestion tools. There are a couple different data sources for getting search volume. So yeah, I actually read that post by Joe, and it was awesome. Gave me some new ideas as well. So check that out.
Yeah, I just posted the link to that post in the chat room. I don't know if you guys have access to that now. I can't see there, but anyways, that post has 12 alternatives to the keyword.
Hello. Thank you so much, you guys. And a lot of ideas we hadn't found, so I really, really appreciate that. Can you just take a moment to comment on the paid tool, Word Tracker?
I've actually never used it. I've used the free tool. They have a free version, and I actually wrote a little bit about that in that post. So I've never used the paid version. I think I did a demo of it once a few years ago, but I'm pretty certain it's changed a lot since then. I don't really know that much about it. John, do you use it at all?
I've never used it either, but I know the people over there, they're really good at what they do. So yeah, but I have no experience with it, unfortunately. If I'm not mistaken, it's more of a paid search tool. Am I correct?
It's paid. Well, they have a free, and then the paid service is $400 a month.
Yeah. Yeah. It's Larry Kim and them, right? I think Larry Kim is the guy that developed it. Yeah. I mean, he's wicked smart. So anything that he builds, I would definitely at least be willing to check out.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
So before you guys went any further, indeed, John, when you said grep words, Carter Cole almost jumped out of the seat and started doing cartwheels. So I wanted to let Carter just talk for a second about grep words. That's GREPWORDS, for you non-Unix nerds. But grep words is something that Carter's been working on really as a replacement to the AdWords keyword tool, and it has a huge database of cost per click and search volume and stuff like that. Carter,
Okay, so shameless plug, but oh, okay. We are collecting keyword data from what used to be the Google keyword tool. We have a keyword database of 83 million English keywords, and it's all in memory, and it's served up super fast. And so it's a really cool database, and y'all should use it. And there's a plugin for Chrome that gives Ubersuggest all the CPC and search volume data added to Ubersuggest, and then there's also Chrome extensions that add it to Webmaster Tools and all the other goodness. So.
You, sir, are my new best friend. That is amazing. I didn't know about those extensions. That's awesome. Thank you.
That sounds pretty cool.
Hi, Carl Sakis here. Thank you for joining us. Question about strategy for a potential client who has large dreams and a small budget. In particular, it appears their business will, maybe so, or well, they haven't signed a contract yet, so I don't know. Question related to first steps for a new business where it appears their business is going to depend on getting local traffic at potentially almost every market in the country, or at least a lot eventually. It seems like could either focus on start in one region and do really well there, or put out content everywhere but not doing as good a job. Given that they're not going to have a huge budget and they're not going to have a ton of people to be working on things, where would you recommend starting? And John, I see you do hourly consulting. If they sign a contract, I'll be in touch for more.
I personally prefer to start small. I know a lot of businesses that have, there's a startup here in New York City actually that I'm friends with the 3 founders and an advisor for them. It's called Faith Street. It's basically, they call it the Match.com for churches, which I thought was hilarious. I was like, all right, I'm going to work with you guys. So they started off in New York City. They're based here in Brooklyn as well. And they started in New York City, and they basically started building out their database that way, starting to create content around that, getting a lot of churches in the area signed up. And then after they've been going for about a year, and they basically vetted, okay, this works, then we put together a nationwide plan to roll out, right? And then they rolled out nationwide. They're building it off of search, doing really good search, really good, just solid technical on-site SEO, getting some, some press mentions and stuff. And then they got into Techstars in New York City back in the spring. So, but they started small, and then they rolled out that way. Especially if you're looking to get, for local businesses, like that's a tough space. With Yelp and all of those, like it's a really tough space. I expect Foursquare to get into that even more. They could do it easily. So I would recommend definitely like starting small, and in my mind, quality wins. I would go quality before quantity. I wouldn't go launching thousands of thin content pages, with scraped content or whatever. In this day and age, that's not really going to get you anywhere. So I would recommend start small. Distilled always said, dream big, start small, right? We would plan really big, and then we would be like, all right, so how do we get there in, a couple years? What can we ship now that's going to get us going, towards that? So I still adhere to that very much.
Yeah, so I actually, I really agree on that. I also want to add, don't be afraid to be creative. And not only creative, but I mean like, maybe creative is not right the word. Don't be afraid to be absolutely insane. Because like you have to set yourself apart from the rest of the market, because if you're competing on a national level, even if you start small and then grow later, you have to really set yourself apart. And a good example of this, and this sounds ridiculous, but has anyone ever heard of the Dollar Shave Club? You heard of the Dollar Shave Club? If that guy wanted to rank for every local market for the term like Raleigh razors, he could, okay? Because he has built up so much brand equity and so much inbound authority that he can do that tomorrow if he wanted to. So when you consider like anything big, you're dreaming big like this, and you wanna take over a bunch of local markets, then make sure that you are absolutely different than every competitor in the space. And sometimes that takes a lot of courage, because quite honestly, that guy from Dollar Shave Club, he looks like a lunatic, you know. So I imagine he had to develop some type of internal courage to make himself look like a fool on a national stage in order to do as well as he's doing. So I think that when you're doing that type at that scale, don't be afraid to get creative with your marketing. Go for a brand presence. Don't focus on the details. You don't get bogged down in the details. We have some clients that are doing something similar to the same type of thing that you're talking about, where they want to rank every locale in the country. And what they've done is they've focused way too much on the large cities. So they focused on New York, LA, Chicago, Atlanta, and they piled a ton of links into those landing pages, and as a result, they don't have any more money for branding. Okay, so they're doing okay in those landing pages, but they're very, very vulnerable to the next search engine algorithm shift, and they're very vulnerable to other market forces. So if that company would have instead put the same amount of money into branding and building a very authoritative domain, then all those other localized results would have been affected by their localized landing pages. Instead, they focused on the details, and they kind of, are really vulnerable to getting stopped foot later. So I'm really a big proponent of, really hardcore branding that sets you apart from the rest of your market, and then leveraging that brand to build domain authority and trust with those customers. And then after that's done, then you can focus on all of the little, links and all that kind of stuff that will help drive those local landing pages.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hi, Joe and John. This is Bobby with Acno Marketing. Got a old school SEO question to ask you guys. So for years and years, we've been preaching on-page optimization, things like title tags, good title tags, heading tags, internal links, maybe an outbound link or two, good optimized image on the page. So is that strategy still valid for 2014 in SEO?
Absolutely. It absolutely is. It's funny because we spend a lot of time, in the beginning of the client campaign, consulting on the on-page factors. It's still very much important that you hit all the main points, which are your title tags, the content on the page, and we even still advise the meta description tag. Some agents don't focus on the meta description tag too much anymore, but we still do. And then also you can take it one step further and go with some of the newer nuances with markup, with the schema markup, which builds what's called rich snippets, and other semantic search markup as well. So those are all things that you absolutely still need to focus on. And that should be the foundation of your SEO, is all the on-page factors. You know, another thing though that I think we really need to talk about is that you can take all of that way too far as well, because a lot of people have in the past taken on-page optimization way too aggressively, and that was what Panda algorithm was all about, and so to kind of isolate yourself from Panda, you need to make sure that you're not over-optimizing those on-page factors. But all of those things that you mentioned before, those are all absolutely still needed and still needed to focus on.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I mean, the basics that as they really are the title, your titles, title tags, your on-page titles, that sort of thing. Obviously, there are certain things that have gone out the window, like the meta keywords tag, and I don't believe that I haven't seen the meta description tag affecting rankings, but it can affect click-throughs. Google is always going to need to be able to access your site, right? Google, like the algorithm is built off the back of a crawler that looks at links. There are a lot of other factors now as well, but links are in a lot of ways the way that Google still discovers content, and discovers websites and that sort of thing. So Google is always going to need to, have good, solid, crawlable sites. And they're getting better at crawling JavaScript and Ajax and that sort of thing. But still having like a solid site, that puts out clean HTML that Google can access. And they can get between the different pages. They can make sense of your architecture. Architecture is one thing, especially on large sites, that people way undervalue, right? The way your site is organized. I've seen so many sites that I go in there and I'm just like, what are you guys doing? Because it's just, the architecture just doesn't make sense, right? Categories don't make sense. Stuff isn't linking to, it's back to its parent pages. They're isolating pages. Basically, the crawler will get to an end page and not be able to go anywhere. Like, there's nowhere for them to go except for, through like the top navigation, which is not the way that you want them to be able to crawl the site. So Google is always going to need good, accessible websites for the crawler, and for the user. So, we're not just thinking about the crawler. When I go to put links onto a website, I think, is this, for like internal linking purposes, is this something that the user is going to expect to see, right? So when I was at Distilled, I would go into a new client, and what I would do for the first day is just try to use the product, just use it for my own needs, and be like, okay, like what am I trying to get out of this? If I was this person, that this is their user, if I was that person, what would I want to see on that page, and what would I need to be able to do? And if it's not there and it's good for SEO, we're going to do it. So yeah, from a technical perspective, all those things that you mentioned are definitely still valid. Though Google has gotten better. One more thing, Google has gotten better at seeing synonyms and connections of words. So I can't really think, like search marketing agency and search marketing company. Those are very closely semantically related. So if you rank for search marketing agency, you may also start ranking for search marketing company. So I think that's one thing that people need to think about. Synonyms and very closely semantically related words is something that Google is getting very good at.
Thanks, guys.
Hi, my name is Maria from Coalmarch, and my question has to do with local ranking factors. What do you guys think are the top 3 local ranking factors for 2014?
I think that potentially your involvement in Google Plus and Google Plus Local is going to be a big factor. But local ranking is really kind of a very odd fish because a lot of local ranking is dependent on your location. And so let's say that you tie in a Google Plus profile and you have an address tied in to Google Plus. Typically, the way it works, a big factor is typically how close your physical location is to your locale centroid. And the centroid is typically your city hall. So, for example, if we're searching for Raleigh barbecue, then one of the big ranking factors is going to be the barbecue restaurant that is closest to Raleigh City Hall. Um, that's typically a huge ranking factor. There's other, and again, that's like within the local 7. You know, when you do a local search, you'll see a top 7 results. And so that's a big ranking factor. But then also another big ranking factor are just all the other, you know, typical ranking factors associated with SEO. And so it's not much different than, say, normal SEO, except for if your query falls into those localized results. And then it comes down to really your relationship to the Centroid. And also another topic about Centroid, if you are optimizing for mobile search, then that is essentially your handset, your phone, becomes the Centroid. So then it becomes the relationship between your physical business and the actual search. So you can't really optimize for that factor, because you can't really predict where someone's exact location will be. So like I said, focus on all the main, you know, traditional ranking factors, and then if you are trying to optimize for that 7th set, then it really comes down to the physical location of your business, and if that business is correctly tied into a Google Plus local page.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I would add in there, well, I have 2 things I would add in there. One is if you want to know about local search, you absolutely have to follow David Mim, who works for Moz now. He puts out the local search ranking factors every year. He put them out this year. He put them out in 2011. And he is the guy to go to for local search. So Joe's absolutely right when it comes to, you know, the Centroid. I was trying to pull it up on my phone right here to see, like, I searched for pizza. I was going to see what it pulled up, you know, for me. And unfortunately, I'm in Brooklyn, and it pulls up stuff in Manhattan. So, you know, I'm not going to Manhattan for pizza when I know that there's one right down the street. But so the Centroid is really important, and I think mobile is going to get better at that. But one that we haven't mentioned yet is reviews. So, like, especially if you're like a restaurant or a carpenter or someone like that, reviews are very, very powerful. I had a hotels client that we started, you know, doing reviews like on both on their website, and then we also started doing them on Google Plus, and we saw some good gains from that. So reviews are definitely good, are a very strong ranking factor in Google, you know, and of course reviews from authoritative, you know, profiles and that sort of thing. You know, so ask people to leave you reviews. So those are the big ones that I see as being, you know, really important. And then also, you know, from just this isn't necessarily a search thing, but just from a business thing, is you know, making sure, like, if you're a restaurant, making sure that your business is on, you know, not only Google Plus Local, but also, you know, Yelp and OpenTable and things like that. Like, I was in New York City on Saturday night with my girlfriend and my parents, and we got out of the subway, and I literally opened up OpenTable and I typed in Italian food, and boom, up come all the Italian restaurants. I looked at the reviews, and, you know, looked at what was available, booked a table, 15 minutes, walked in, and you know, we sat down for dinner. You know, and I never would have found them. They were 6 blocks away. I never would have found them because they were tucked back in a little corner, but it's like, you know, a little hidden local spot that we happened upon because they were on OpenTable. You know, so thinking outside of search, you know, that's another place to be, especially for local businesses.
Speaking of reviews, I was wondering how, if at all, does making reviews impact you? Does that have any effect on anything other than getting invited to different Google places?
You mean so like you going on personally and leaving a review, or leaving a review as your business, or what?
Yeah, there is some kind of, it seemed to be a local competition for who could get the most reviews up on Google Local. and seemed to be a lot of activity, people posting, 75, 100 plus times. I mean, in good reviews, not junk. And I just wondered if that actually would have any type of reverse impact that you could think of.
Can I comment on that real quick?
Go for it, Joe.
Here's a really big reverse impact. Last month, the New York State Attorney General indicted 19 internet marketing firms in the state of New York for what's called astroturfing. We were not one of those agencies, thank God. We don't do that. But that is against the law. It's considered in many cases false advertising. So, with that said, it really depends on your locale and the legalities of I guess North Carolina state law, and if you have an attorney general that even understands what a Google review is, kind of thing. But I would say that just because it's kind of not really kosher to do, I would advise against it. I do know that Google has taken some measures in the past to kind of try to identify false reviews. And I don't even know if what you're talking about is false reviews. I mean,
yeah, no, I'm not talking about any of those articles with the New York
okay.
or whatever, or false reviews. I'm talking about real sincere reviews that people
just trying to get reviews from people. Well, then I guess that's fine. I don't know of any evidence of that. As long as, again, like I said, as long as they're all real, and as long as they're all, I guess, kosher, and I guess that's good. I think the only thing is, though, is that, in marketing, as a marketing, professional and someone who has designed processes in the past, it's very, very tempting to optimize your review gathering in a way that could come across as fake. So, for example, there is a dentist office in Fort Mill, South Carolina, right below Charlotte, and they ran a contest to see which one of their branches would get the most Google reviews, and they basically had their dental hygienists kind of get each one of the patients to submit a review after their teeth were cleaned. And each individual branch of this dentist practice were competing against each other, okay? And so the process got so optimized that Google started blocking their accounts from accepting new reviews because the reviews started coming in way too quickly. And so as a marketer, it's really tempting to put together a contest like that and to optimize the process, but then you kind of shoot yourself in the foot in that regard. John, do you have any thoughts on that?
I actually hadn't heard about that, Joe. That's really interesting. It's almost like reviews. They just like links. Reviews could be such a strong signal. There have been case studies that if you got a ton of links, really fast, and all of a sudden, you're going to stop ranking. It seems like the same way for reviews. Would you say?
Well, it's not that you stop ranking. It's just that they cut you. They stop. They won't let any more reviews be submitted. Kind of thing.
Sure. Gotcha. Yeah. On the subject of the posting reviews, I think it's, if you're talking about I take my Google Plus profile and I link and I post reviews on, Google local pages, and that links back to me, and therefore I'm seen as more of an authority and that sort of thing. I don't. There may be an indirect relationship there, but I don't think there's a direct relationship. Not that I've seen, but I've heard of businesses doing very smart things like, think about going back to using like a local example, using using like a pizza, a pizza store. If your employees have gone and use the stores around them, right? Like there's a Verizon store next door. Go and leave a review of the Verizon store, right? and then and then you might get some trickle in traffic. People are going to the Verizon store, and then they see your name there, and they see that you work for Joe's Pizza. Then they might come next door. You're going to be top of mind, and so they're like, well, I wasn't really hungry, but I've seen Joe's Pizza before, so I'm going to go in there and get a piece of pizza. And I've seen companies actually do that as well for people that rank, people that rank really well, that are related to their business. So if someone ranks really well for a term in your local area, leave a review. As your company, leave a review, give them to put you into circles, and leave a review on their brand page. They're going to appreciate it, and you may get some walk-in traffic or that sort of thing.
Let me ask one more question to add on to that. I think what Jim was getting at is Raleigh-Durham is one of the areas that Google Local City Experts, is that what it's called, Bobby? Is aimed at. San Francisco's one, I think New York has some too. So they're pushing us here to, hey, go out and get reviews, and there's more of a push than might be going on in Charlotte, someplace like that. So I think Jim's question came from, is there any advantage or disadvantage for me as a Google Plus user to having more reviews? So say, for example, I've written 100 reviews. Does the review I leave for your company have more weight because it's me who's left 100 reviews already than Joe's because he's only left 2 reviews all over the web? Is there any type of weight that comes with leaving a lot of reviews so that some companies might say, we should get Fred D's in here because that guy leaves reviews every place and he's got a lot of juice?
You know what? I have no idea, and to be quite honest with you, I would like to defer my time to Mark. I think he'd be a better expert at that than I would.
Yeah, I don't really have a good answer for that. I think long term that's what Google is moving towards, the topical authority. But currently I don't really have a good answer for it.
Mark Trapagan's going to go register Google review ship rank, I think, next. All right, here's a couple of questions from the chat room. This is from Matt Dempsey. He says, does a domain with keywords in it help you rank for those keywords? Does the domain itself help with SEO? And finally, does a .com rank better than the other options? .com.
So on the first one, I'm going to say yes, but Google had an EMD update that rolled out September 2012. It rolled out the day I was going on vacation, which was lovely. Thanks, Google. But so they did that, and I saw some people be adversely affected that had very exact match domains for the keyword that they were trying to rank for. But I think it's important to note that it's not just that's one signal, and they turned that down. These guys, they were relying on that very strongly, and they also had a lot of bad links and thin content and that sort of thing. So they were adversely affected by that change. In the past, there were people that would go and do 2, 3, 4 hyphens in a domain to try to get as many keywords in there. Plus, it was a cheaper domain. You don't really see those ranking too much anymore. As far as like the .com, .net, .biz, .info, that sort of thing, I don't think it really has an effect. Joe may have more of an opinion on this. He's been in the game longer than I have, but what matters is how authoritative your website is, right? Distilled is on a .net, and it ranks very well. Moz, SEO Moz was on a .org for a long time, and now they're on a .com, but they're on a .org, and they rank very well, and they have a lot of organic traffic. There are a lot of startups that have like a .ly or something like that. Those used to connote like geographical areas. They don't as much anymore. Google has like hreflang and that targeting webmaster tools and that sort of thing. So really, in my mind, I go for what's more branding wise. Like I want to have what's gonna something that's gonna be memorable, something that people are gonna and not something generic, because that's gonna help me in all areas of marketing. And if you're good enough, you can still make it rank for those terms that you want to rank for.
Yeah, I agree. And also, just going back to the question about keywords in the domain, I think it really depends. And so there's a difference between having keywords in a domain and then the domain name is called an exact match domain. So, and just for clarity's sake, an exact match domain is a domain, something like cheapviagra.com, and you want to rank for the term cheap Viagra, and so your domain name would be cheapviagra.com. Those types of domains, it's kind of hard to say, but a lot of those types of domains that have very commercialized terms within the domain are not ranking anymore, because that's an inherent signal of manipulation, trying to manipulate the results. However, you can combine another word to the domain and easily kind of get around that. A good example would be the name of my company that I work for is called Internet Marketing Ninjas, and it sounds crazy. It's a really crazy sounding name, but for the last year, we've ranked on the first page for the term internet marketing, which is an extremely competitive term to rank for. And the only way we've been able to do that is because we have the term internet marketing in the domain name, and then it was coupled with the term ninjas. So we kind of evaded that exact match domain filter and still capitalized on the term internet marketing. So, a lot of people want to structure their domains around their brand. I think that's probably the best choice is to choose a domain name that fits with the brand of your company. I mean, as far as using a .com or a .net or a .org, from an algorithmic standpoint, it doesn't matter. But what does matter is that you have a domain that people trust. And quite honestly, the .com is the most trusted domain, TLD. Other domain names that are not as trustworthy would be like .info or .biz. You won't get very many high-quality links to a domain .info because not so many people use those, and it doesn't look very trustworthy. So, I always love the .com just because it looks very trustworthy and it's easier to attract links.
Yeah. Also, users are more likely to type in a .com. I can't count the number of times I told someone, to go to distill.net and, they would email me and be like, I can't get there. I typed in distill.net.com. I'm like, no. So like there are a lot of users that will type in .com. So, for like a direct traffic perspective, I would recommend the .com, and I agree with Joe. .com is the most trusted. There's also .edu for educational, vacation, that sort of thing, and a lot of link builders have said like, oh, you got to get .edu links, you have to get .org links. .edu and .org websites are not authoritative because they have a .edu or a .org in the domain. They have those because they're authoritative entities, right? They're an authoritative university or an organization or something like that. Yeah.
All right, here's another question from Heather Curtis, which is a good one I hadn't thought of before, which is there any value in hacking links into the descriptions of posts that you put up on Flickr, YouTube, places like that?
No, not really. Most of those links are no followed, and so they don't really provide much value. Really what it comes down to with link building in general, especially link building in like a social media context, is go after links that are going to drive traffic. So if you've got a really great video on YouTube, or you've got a really amazing image on Flickr that's going to attract a lot of attention, then sure, put a link in the description just to drive traffic back to your website. But as far as using those links to manipulate search engines, that's kind of not going to work. I mean, those are all no followed, and you're not going to get any algorithmic value from those links.
All right, here's another one from Tia. you guys have recommendation for books or websites for SEO newbies? I don't have any books off the top of my head, but there's certainly some great websites.
I do think that the Art of SEO by Rand Fishkin and Eric Inge and those guys is a really good one. It's a classic. I know Ian Lurie contributed to SEO for Dummies, which I actually read, which was actually pretty good. So if you're just learning, I would recommend starting there. And of course, like the Moz blog, the Distilled blog, the Seer Interactive blog, Search Engine Land for industry news. Search Engine Watch has some good stuff on there. There are a lot of those blogs out there, and then there are a lot of smaller blogs, right? Honestly, I would search for like top 10 SEO blogs, that sort of thing. You're gonna find, Kaiser the Sage and Ross Hudgens, who now runs Siege Media. You might find my own site, that sort of thing. So there are a lot of smaller blogs out there as well that are people, writing really good content that are really, helpful and smart people.
There's a lot of really great books out there. One of my favorite books is written by a colleague of mine called SEO Visual Blueprint, and it's great because it actually literally shows you the code that you can embed into your website. It's called SEO Visual Blueprint by Chris Jones, and it's a very awesome illustrated guide to walk you through a lot of the optimization. On-page optimizations, that kind of thing. As far as learning SEO websites are concerned, I would advise Search Engine Roundtable. That's a really amazing site run by Barry Schwartz. It's great because it literally every day it kind of updates you on everything that's going on in regards to Google. And these are all things that you can kind of follow. SEO Book is a great site as well. Aaron Wall runs that. Really, really, very, very informative. And then another shameless plug. We kind of run a handful of communities. So webmasterworld.com, SEOchat.com, and then the creator site forums as well are all places that you can go to, and you can meet me in there. I'm in there most times. That kind of thing. So yeah, there's a lot of different areas out there. But actually, you might want to stay tuned to our Twitter accounts later. I'll tweet some other stuff later after this.
Yeah, I know Neil Patel has launched a forum, and Martin McDonald has launched another forum. He started SEOforums.org, and he started, I believe it's webmarketingschool.com or .org. And I mean, Martin, Neil's a super smart guy. He's made a lot of money on the internet, does a really good job, does great work. I mean, Martin is one of my go-tos for anything search related. So anything that he's putting his weight behind, I'm absolutely going to pay attention to it. So. But you also need to go check him out and see, what level the content is at and if that fits your needs.
Thank you, Joe and John, again for your time. I appreciate it. My question is about crowdfunding sites, and I don't know if this is part of your expertise or not, but certainly it's worth asking. I would like to know if there's a way to increase your visibility on crowdfunding sites. And that's my question, but my background to that is my company is iFankind. We're a local startup. We're running a crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo right now. We're on day 21 of a 40-day campaign. The contributions have been robust. We've noticed that they're all coming from links that we've shared with others using the social network. The question is, it seems like we are bound by the algorithms of the sites themselves, but is it the case that maybe there's something that we could be doing differently that would increase our page views from people discovering us within the site and not via links outside of the site? Thank you.
So I think Now, let me just get this correctly. Are you asking how to get more traffic to your Indiegogo page through Indiegogo?
Yes. So what we've been doing is sharing links with our social network and with our other partners. What we're trying to figure out is there a way, or are you aware of the algorithms that are used by crowdfunding sites that might increase our visibility from people that are on the site who don't have a link and are just by way of discovery finding our page?
Okay. Well, let me tell you, so there's actually an agency in North Carolina. Well, they're in Charlotte. I can actually tell you their name. Their name is Command Partners, and they're in Charlotte. They actually specialize in promoting crowdfunding projects. And they do amazing work with it. I'm not sure if they've ever worked with Indiegogo before. They do a lot of work with Kickstarter. But I don't want to like give away too much of what they do. But I will say this: a large portion of their efforts in that regard is focused on drumming up off-site media attention for the funding project. And then when that happens, it drives a lot of traffic to the funding homepage, and it raises a bunch of money. And then as a result of that, as a result of having traffic and an increase in money, the pages then start to show up more on the first page of Kickstarter and that kind of thing. So if you're looking to, I guess, optimize your presence on Indiegogo, your first goal is to forget about Indiegogo and really just promote the fundraising campaign into the mainstream press and mainstream media, and try to drive as much traffic to those pages as possible, and try to raise as much money. One thing that I know has been really successful for them is by pushing the campaigns through a press release syndication service. So the strategy would be that you develop a press release talking about your fundraising campaign and what your objectives are, and then you can go push it through a service like PR Web or PR Newswire, which basically syndicates your press release throughout all these different media outlets. In fact, I think PR Web has an office in Raleigh, doesn't it? So they've got a decent team up there that could, absolutely put together a package for you to push your press release. But again, the general concept here is driving traffic to your individual fundraising page on Indiegogo, and then hopefully through doing that, it kind of works Indiegogo's own algorithm to get you more exposure on their site.
I would also look at, I totally agree with what Joe is saying. I think that's, that holistic marketing approach is definitely, the way you're ultimately going to win. Talking specifically on the site, there are, so I haven't done it with like Kickstarter or Indiegogo, though I've done some things with SlideShare, where basically like if you put up a slide, so, leveraging platforms like that, putting up a slide, putting up a presentation about, your campaign, and then pinging your friends and asking for social shares. You get a few social shares and you're going to appear like hot on LinkedIn, hot on Facebook. LinkedIn is the easiest one to get on there. And when I was at Distilled, when Distilled puts on conferences, they actually just had a conference the last couple of days in London. I got an introduction to someone there at SlideShare, and then before we before we put one on, I would go and I would email a person and say, hey, we're putting this on. Would you mind featuring us on the homepage? And they would feature Search Love London 2013, and they would feature all of our slide decks. So that got us even more exposure. So what I would do is I would go to LinkedIn, and I would look at people that work for Indiegogo or Kickstarter, and I would see if you have any connections in common, and then ask them if they can make an introduction. Because I got the introduction to SlideShare through a mutual friend of myself and the person that ran community at SlideShare. And then you can email them and say like, hey, this is what we're doing. I see that you feature, I see that there are featured, campaigns in this area on your homepage, and I was wondering how we could go about getting on that for a day or something like that. So then you're not necessarily doing it through their algorithm, but you're actually getting someone to curate you into that area. So that's something that's worked very well on SlideShare. It'd be worth a shot on Indiegogo or Kickstarter.
Thank you so much. One last question. Have either of you used Jamplify? We were about to do a contest where we reward referrals by giving away Keith Richards' guitar, autographed guitar, or a Justin Bieber autographed guitar, and signed baseball signed by the cast of Mad Men. Didn't know if we're wasting our time doing that or if you've had experience using Jamplify or Thunderclap in those ways. Thank you.
I haven't used either of those, but I want that guitar. There are a lot of
you can earn it.
I mean, the nice thing about that is you can use these things like Jamplify, but the nice thing about those areas is music. People are nuts about music. There are so many music fans. There are so many baseball fans. There's so many Justin Bieber fans, right? So if you're giving away something really cool like that, going and getting in touch with the people that run the fan sites and that sort of thing, they're going to be more than happy, most likely to promote it, to help you promote it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
John, sorry, I'm giving your address here so that we can connect you with Justin Bieber's guitar.
I don't want the Bieber guitar. I want the Keith Richards guitar.
Yeah, sure you do. All right, I have another chat question for you, and this is a good one. It gets into some good nitty-gritty. Sophia Lewis has a question about schema.org, and she has a site that sells product, and her question is, where should she start with her schema markup? So her question is really, should I start on product pages or category level pages? But if you guys could start a little bit before that for people who might not be totally hip to the whole schema.org stuff, and then finish up with Sophia's specific question about where she's going to get more bang for her buck at category or product level pages.
Yeah, so schema is a type of structured markup, or commonly referred to as structured HTML. It's a type of HTML that standardizes the way that data is presented on the page. And the reason that it's important, or the reason that it's become popular to use within SEO, is because search engines use this standardized model of HTML to identify certain pieces of data that they can then show within the results. And when they show this type of data within the results, the snippet is then called a rich snippet, because the snippet contains extra data that normally would not be provided. And sometimes this extra data might be the reviews. So, for example, on a product page, there might be reviews of the product, and within the search results, you might see the number of stars the review got. Sometimes the rich snippet will include the picture of the author or the authorship of, that's tied to the page. And then sometimes the snippet will include breadcrumb links that are associated with the sections and categories that the page is located at on the site. As far as like where a site should begin, to start using Schema. If you're an e-commerce site, I would definitely advise using them on product pages, especially if your product pages has reviews, because reviews can contain ratings and stars, and once ratings and stars show up in search results, it can increase your click-through rate, which can lead to much, much more organic search traffic. So, you know, I typically like to start at the product page level. At the category level, there's only so many places to put them. And mostly it has to do with the breadcrumbs at that point. But again, I like starting at product level. John?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I say, you know, mark up, and you know, you can mark up prices, you can mark up addresses, you can mark up, you know, all of that. And really the power of schema is that it's telling Google the association, so you can say like, you know, this is an address, and this is the street, and this is the zip code, and that sort of thing. So it really helps. It can help out like in local search and that sort of thing. Really what it's doing is it's helping Google to more easily make sense out of what's going on your website. So yeah, as far as e-commerce is concerned, I absolutely agree with Joe. I would start on the product pages. You know, go to schema.org and do some investigation around, you know, the different schemas that are out there, you know, that are accepted, that you know, that you can mark up the different areas of your site, you know, the different elements on your page. And you know, that can even give you some other ideas for things that you can put onto the page, right? If you're like, oh well, I didn't know that there was a, you know, I don't know, a fax number. Oh, maybe I should have a fax number because my audience uses faxes, right? And I can mark that up. You know, it can also give you ideas for more interesting things to put on the page as well. So yeah, I would start with the product page, and then, as Joe said, you know, look at what you can put on a category page or something, you know, something like that, or your profile pages, or you know, person profile pages, what have you.
Hey John, hey Joe, this is Ryan Hoosier from IEMA. Just had a quick question. I wanted to pick your brains on this. I had an interesting conversation with Paul Madden earlier this morning based on his presentation at SearchLove, where he made the supposition that we should wait 2 weeks after submitting the disavow file before we submit a reconsideration request. That seems to me kind of contrary to what Matt Cutts said about a year ago, where he suggested just about a day or so worth of waiting after the disavow before you submit a reconsideration request. Do you guys have any opinions on that?
So I actually did a lot of cleanup work with an old client of mine from Distill that was affected by Penguin. So I mean, it's important to note first that Google, of course, has made interesting changes in the last couple of months where they now tell you about manual actions on your website. So honestly, I think they did that because they're being inundated with reconsideration requests for algorithmic, you know, because people were affected algorithmically. So now you're only able to submit a reconsideration request if you have a manual action. So the sites that I was working on, first we were doing them like the day after we submitted this disavow file. We found that was actually helping to get them processed quicker. And then luckily, unluckily, however you want to think about it, the sites that I was working on, they also had manual actions. Most of them had manual actions on them as well. And so we were still able, you know, to submit, you know, a disavow file, and then we were able to submit a re-inclusion request. So I'm not exactly sure what Paul Madden is talking about when it comes to submitting, you know, I assume he's talking about when there's a manual action as well. Otherwise, maybe I'm missing something, but I don't know where else you can submit one at this point.
Right. No, that's the only way you can do it at this point. I'm pretty sure he was considering the manual action feature. That's just been recently added.
Yeah. No, I've always done it straight after, but Joe, I'd love to hear your opinion on this as well.
Well, I think every agency and every consultant kind of has their own comfort level as far as how they engage with Google. And so I think I'm not really sure what their thought process might be. But one thing that we do kind of advise clients sometimes is to let the disavow file take some time to actually work before you send in a reconsideration request, because then when you send it in, um, you're able to kind of make the case in the reconsideration request that you have made an effort to fix the problem without, contacting them, and you can kind of document the changes that you make. And that's kind of a big thing. I mean, when you send in a reconsideration request, it has to document pretty much everything you've done up until that point to rectify the problem. And part of that can be a disavow document, and maybe, I don't know, like I said, every consultant is different. Maybe that person is thinking that you let it sit for a few weeks and what we call marinate, let the disavow document marinate a little bit, to kind of take action on that a little bit on Google's end. And then when Google goes to look at it through the reconsideration request, it's kind of already started and it's a little bit active. I'm not sure. It just depends. And honestly, here's the thing. Whether or not whatever we say or whatever this other person says doesn't really matter too much. Because what's mostly important is that you have successfully convinced Google that you have rectified the problem, and that you will no longer do this again. And so, the reconsideration request, that's the goal of it. And the disavow document is just one supporting element within that documentation. It's basically like saying, hey, look, I've already told you I don't want these links on me. You could get the same effect though by going out and taking those links down. You have the ability to do that. But ultimately, it really just comes down to convincing Google that you'll no longer do this again.
Well, I guess the question is then: is the disavow file a mechanical action, almost like a robots.txt, something that like switches or flipped, or is it something that Google engineer will come in and look at and be like, this is what we're going to reconsider?
Yeah. So what we've seen, and this is actually something that John Muir told our CEO in a public interview. He told us that the way that your disavow works is you see your disavow file, and then those links that are listed in the disavow file are actually still active until Google's crawler goes back and recrawls those links. So, like, let's say that you disavow a link from like 2004 or 2005. It's still on the web, and you disavow it. Well, it's not going to really be disavowed until Google revisits that site. And if it's a really, really old link, then a lot of times Google won't revisit the site for quite a long time. It's an automated process, so it's not like well, at least they say it's automated. I think it's partially automated. So you've got like an engineer that sits there and makes sure that you're not disavowing every link that's going to your site. But for the most part, I think it's kind of an automated process. There's probably some quality control going on there, but ultimately it's an automated process that I don't think you can switch on or off kind of thing. They have said that once you disavow a link, you can't undisavow it. It's gone forever. So you do need to be kind of careful when you're doing this type of analysis, and when you're picking links that you want to disavow, that you're not disavowing links that are actually helping you, that kind of thing.
Yeah, Cyrus Shepard at Moz has done a lot of studies around that. So he published a case study on Moz a while ago, and then put an update on it on his personal blog. So yeah, in my experience, I agree with Joe. It's mostly automated, but I think there is some manual stuff going on there. But Cyrus disavowed everything, and his search traffic plummeted after Penguin. So after a Penguin update. So definitely it's a powerful tool. You're cutting out like huge swaths of links, and some of them are helping you rank. So the one thing that I always try to remind my old client was, all right, so we're removing these links that we believe are toxic, but some of them are probably still passing link equity. So they're still, in a sense, helping us rank, right? So what we need to be doing is, while we're removing links, and then so the way we did it was we identified the links using, Modscape, Ahrefs, Majestic, Webmaster Tools, as many of the links as we could, go through and qualify them, use link detox and link research tools, and then go through and email. We did 3 rounds of emails, and then we would submit a disavow file. Actually, we would also disavow the links that we got removed as well. We would still list those. So we found that to be effective as well. And we were doing this on a mass scale because they'd done a lot of link building in the past before they worked with Distilled. And we were seeing some very good results. I think we had 7 sites that had manual link penalties against them, and in about 6 to 8 months with doing this, we had the penalties removed from 6 of the 7. And that was as of a month ago when I left Distilled. So
Mainly disavowing in the domain level, or?
Domain level, absolutely. Yeah, we didn't disavow individual pages, we disavowed it on a, because they're bad, like, the worst of the links you can imagine. So we would just say we don't want anything from this domain.
That makes perfect sense. Well, thanks for letting me pick your brains, guys. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Any more questions? All right, then I've got the last question for these guys.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, the last one's a good one. I'm waiting for everybody to leave so we can get to the secret stuff that we talked about that only the smart people are going to get.
Thanks again, guys, for coming out tonight. Quick question. Well, it might be a long question, but I know some people probably want to go home at this point. What SEO tools do you use on an everyday basis, and do you recommend that people should be using today?
Joe, you want to take that because you're agency side right now?
You what?
Do you want to take that because you're at an agency right now?
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, so, gosh, yeah, that's a really good question. We used, unfortunately, I hate to say this, but a lot of tools that we use, we built ourselves, and they're all proprietary. You guys can't use them. But there are a lot of other tools out there. I'm a huge fan and supporter of Raven SEO tools or Raven tools. Raven tools is really great for your consultant level or kind of tech savvy business or in-house SEO person. Moz has a great tool set. Moz, I think, is geared more towards the business owner. So if you're a business owner and you need a tool set, Moz is a great one. Search Metrics has some really interesting tools. If you're looking for link building, Citation Labs is pretty good. There's just a lot of stuff out there. We have a whole collection of free tools on Webmaster World, and also we have a collection of free tools on internetmarketingengines.com. But I think, and this is something that I tell people a lot when they're looking for SEO tools, is to think about the task at hand, what you want to do, and then think about the data that's required to do that task, and then try to find a tool set that incorporates that data in a way that I think fits with your needs. Because, ideally, it's not so much about the tools or the data, it's how you apply those tools and data. So ultimately, I think that, you could sit and do what's called analysis paralysis and not get really anywhere. But if you have a clear and coherent strategy moving forward, and if you can find a tool set that matches with that strategy, that's ultimately going to be your best bet right here. But yeah, there's a lot of great tools out there, and a lot of them come with free trials. So definitely try out, everything that's out there on the market.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was at Distilled, I mean, the tools I used the most were Search Metrics, SEMrush. I used, the Moz Pro Tools, Moz Analytics was awesome. And then depending on what the client needed at an agency, you're fortunate to have a large swath of tools. Being in-house, it's a bit different. I have to think very carefully about, like, am I actually going to keep, using this? There are some tools that I use just as I'm auditing a site, like, the IEMA redirect checker, which is a Chrome extension, which is great. It flashes up like 301, 302, 200, that sort of thing. I can see the way it chains redirects. The tool that I use for technical audits the most, honestly, is Screaming Frog. It's like $150 for a year-long membership, and it's just phenomenal. You can use it just to pound a whole site, or you can use it to crawl sections of the site to do audits on sections of the site, which is really useful on very large websites. Those are the ones that I use the most, honestly. And then I have a bunch of tools built out in Google Docs. Honestly, most of them are based off of tools that Tom Anthony at Distilled in London built out, put on the Moz blog. So yeah, I've baked my own tools, I built my own tools, and then the ones that I mentioned, I've used Raven as well. It's a phenomenal tool, especially for like small business owners. I know that they've done a lot around content and social. On the enterprise level, there are tools like Conductor and SEO Clarity. I've used both of them. It really just depends on what your needs are. So try them all, get demos. And you have to work within your budget. So sometimes you might have to beg access, but that's okay.
I'm going to add one more to the list, which is our newest SEO sponsor who helps pay for this venue, which is Authority Labs. Oh, left. But if you're doing rank checking, Authority Labs is great for that. One of the few left that's doing rank checking.
Yeah, they do a
the
great
other
job.
one I like is all of Richard Baxter's Excel backups.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I've been using those like crazy recently, and it's amazing. Richard is doing a phenomenal job, providing that free tool.
And he just started using RepWords as well. So the last super secret question that I didn't even tell these guys is, if we have you back a year from now on this same date, what are we going to be talking about? Where's Google heading in 2014 that you feel like people might not be ready for? What's the thing you're looking for over the next 12 years?
Do you want to take that? I'll start.
Go for it, Joe. Let me think. I have so many. Go for it.
Okay, so actually, I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I think that the only way you can really tell which way you're going, like what's going to happen in the future, is if you look at what's happened in the past. And in the past, it was really simple. SEO was relatively simple. It required a certain number of keywords on the page, and then a certain number of links that point to that page, and then you could rank. And that was a piece of cake back then. Since then, it's become more nuanced, and now we have probably around 300 to 400 different ranking factors that are at play at any moment. And not only that, but the search results have changed in a way that they change constantly. We have personalized results, we have universal results, we have results that include social snippets, we have results that include news, we have just a whole plethora of different types of results. So the search landscape, as far as ranking factors and then the actual ranking pages, are becoming much, much more nuanced than they were when Google first started. I think that in 2014, it's going to get even more nuanced, and it's going to get even more personalized. And I don't know how many of you guys have been following the update with Hummingbird, but Hummingbird is Google's new engine, so to speak. It is the guts of Google now. And what Hummingbird does is it processes the search query before it hits the engine. And that's very important because what it's doing is it's reconfiguring the terms that you type into the box, and it's kind of discerning the meaning of those terms before it hits the engine. And so I think that the future of SEO in general is going to be less about ranking factors and less about trying to figure out the algorithm, and it can be more and more about aligning your content and your website to your users' intent. And so, you know, and we've always said this, but really it's getting to a point where it's almost absurd now with Hummingbird. You really do need to know what your audience wants and what your users want. And you need to build content and websites that are responsive to your users' interest and your audience interest. And that can be anything from, let's say that you are a carpet wholesaler and you're selling carpet. You might need to develop content on the site that pertains to every aspect of that carpet installation and every aspect of the carpet manufacturing process. Because there's somebody out there that one day is going to go to Google and is going to ask a very specific question. And if you're not there to answer that question about your product, then someone else is going to do that. And so I think that the future of SEO is less about factors. It's less about trying to get into links and social metrics and all that jazz. And it's more about aligning your website, your content, your brand with the user's intent and making sure that you are the authority on that industry or niche that you operate in. And so that's where I think 2014 is going to be. I think we'll talk a lot more about content next time. I think that we'll see a lot more examples of really engaging content that not only delivers user intent, but also that people enjoy consuming as well.
Yeah, I think for me, the two things that people are not really thinking about yet that we need to be thinking about that 2014 is going to be huge for is one of them we've already talked about, which is structured data. You know, schema.org, marking up your site, you know, with rich data, whether it's you know, RDFA or schema or you know the other microdatas out there, you know, telling the engines what you're talking about. I think that one is huge. I think it's severely undervalued. I mean, we've been talking about it for years now. People that implemented a couple years ago are really winning online now. But the one that we have not talked about, you know, much at all, and a little bit with local, is mobile. You know, the internet is increasingly moving to devices, right? Like I have my iPhone right here, right? I do most of my searches on here. If I'm searching for a place, like a place to eat, I'm on here, right? You know, if I go to, when I travel to another city and I'm looking for my hotel or I'm looking for something like that, I'm on here. You know, I work in an industry now that is very mobile heavy. You know, if you look on Zillow's site, you can see their stats for mobile. It's like 60% on weekdays is mobile and mobile and apps, and 70% on weekends. Like it's a huge amount of mobile traffic. Will Critchlow from Distilled put out a presentation or blog post recently, you know, like showing that desktop search isn't dying necessarily. You know, there's still more queries being done every day as more of the world comes online. But you know, there are whole countries that are skipping the computer and going straight to the smartphone. You know, it's like there is huge opportunity in mobile. That's one space that I'm really watching and really thinking about. And I think that's something we're going to be talking about a lot more, right? And not just mobile search. I mean, Google has said that if you have a bad mobile experience, they're going to start demoting people. Bryson Munier, who's one of like the best, one of the authorities on mobile SEO, he just the other day posted a case study that he thinks he's seen the first like devaluation of a site that had a bad mobile experience, right? They just have like a landing page. So I think in 2014, you know, we've been saying this is the year of mobile since like 2008. I really think we're at that tipping point right now. So and you know, I'm seeing it in my own work. I've seen it in other industries when I was at Distilled. So we need to start thinking about how are people not just how are they searching, but how are they interacting, right? And so having a responsive site, having content that works on the that works on the phone just as well as on a 20-inch monitor. It's so easy to we all develop websites on like big monitors, and so he's like, oh, that looks great, and then you look at it on our little phones and it looks awful and you can't read anything. I really think that it is the year 2014 is the year of mobile, and in 1 year we'll be talking about that a lot more.
That's it, guys. You have done your duty for the Raleigh SEO Meetup. Very much appreciated. Joe Hall, John Doherty, all of our love from Raleigh. Thank you, guys.
Our pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.